So, what did we think of this week's Coronation Street? Gemma, like it? As good as last week? Not as good as last week? What do you reckon?
Find out at the end, won't we?
Find out as we go. I thought it was okay. It was a good week. I thought it was a strong week. I think I preferred last week more, but it was a pretty worthy follow-up to last week's epicness. And interesting how they still made it pretty much all about one story as well, because we basically had a good 4 episodes, didn't we, where there was, or 4 days worth, where there was only this story, and I loved how they did that. It just allowed so much depth, so much corners, so much little twists, and, corners to delve into and stuff.
Corners.
Yeah.
It's one story, but it affects all the different characters in different ways.
Oh, so deep. I mean, there were some elements of it that was like, this seems a bit like padding, like pretty much everything to do with summer at the moment. I'm thinking, are they just adding a couple of summer scenes with Billy and Todd just to remind us that she's in the promo picture for it?
It was funny when they were like, Summer, you didn't go to school today. Why weren't you there? And I was like, because I realised I'm 25 and I actually don't need to go to school anymore, Dad.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she's probably going to maybe come in, become important the further along this goes down the line, and Amy as well. I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot of her.
Perhaps that picture was a red herring. Not quite sure.
Also, there is a chance that Ardy might be in it more than possibly. Maybe. I don't know, but it was definitely. I mean, it was about Kelly this week, wasn't it? And Corrie as well, I suppose.
It's
bit of Nina.
It's become a story about nature versus nurture, and does a bad upbringing. Is it inevitable that you are going to turn out bad, or is it whose fault is it if a child is?
If you've got a scar on your eyebrow, does that naturally make you a wrong one? If
your dad gets killed in the woods, are you allowed to kill someone else yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Very interesting.
Did she kill anyone at all? We don't know.
Well, exactly. And we were talking last week about, are they going to try and redeem her? Should we feel sorry for her at all? So that was certainly a topic of conversation in this house and on the online and everything. So I'm sure we'll get into that later. But we will start off with the Aretha Franklin story. And I'm still waiting. I did have a little look. I did a little Google image search earlier this week to see if there are any pictures of Seb's funeral or anything, just so I could find Aretha Franklin. And I could not. So maybe it's not coming up quite yet.
Do you think that there's going to be something like special about his funeral, or do you think that it's just going to be?
What do you mean?
Well, we haven't had any, like you said. I don't think there's been any pictures of his funeral.
Not that I've seen.
And George was asking Abby today, is there anything like I thought you might like something a bit different?
Yeah.
I can just imagine Abby being the sort of person who says something like, I want balloons and I want everyone to wear nice colours or something. That's all I'm thinking. I just think there's something about this situation that makes me think that there might be something unusual.
Well, I mean, if she does get everyone to dress up in black, then she's just a massive hypocrite, isn't she?
Well, exactly.
What she's saying to
everybody just dressing up as Victorians.
Yeah, I'm surprised she didn't just say Carla, like, you're one of them as well, aren't you?
Well, Carla was wearing a very Gothic-inspired coat today, because she had like the weird kind of fabric folds on the back, which were kind of very Gothic-y looking, like Victorian frock coats or something. Yeah, and she was like, "Oh, Abby, how could you say that?" I was thinking, yeah, Carla, stand up for yourself and all your gothy friends.
We did have a little bit of some other stories. The Baileys were back this week. I've just written down, I've called this Return to Glory because it was a return to the Glory storyline. Although I'm still like, every time that Ronnie and Jenny appear in a scene together, I'm like, you bloody keep your hands off each other. I'm paranoid. I'm convinced something's going to happen there, and I do not like it. But anyway, I know. Oh man, I'll tell you some more about that later. And then we had like 3 scenes with Sam and Daniel, which were kind of cute today. But I don't know whether that's leading into its own story or whether that's just going to be another little corner for the Sharon confidential information to go down, which they still do want us to remember about, which we could tell by the way that Sharon, about as subtly as a brick, was trying to get information from Toya about Leanne's whereabouts this week, wasn't she? Completely unnecessarily, and kind of spoiling that scene in the Rovers, going, so, do you think you might want to ring up your sister? Hey, what do you think? Ring up your sister, Toya. Oh yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it? And it's like, you're not needed. I love you, Sharon, but we don't need to see you in this story right this week, I think. So, as this was another week which was almost wholly dedicated to one story, we'll do the same, I think, for the synopsis, where we will take a day each, and then we'll chat as we go, and maybe see if there's any other loose ends to tie up when we get to the end. So Abby on Monday, we found, I think it was ended on Friday last week with us learning about Seb's death. So Abby's just feeling pretty empty on the sofa on Monday morning, and Kevin and Debbie are looking right worried about her. And then we have Dev breaking the news to Asher and Corrie. Asher can see that Corrie is looking terrified that he is potentially going to be, found guilty of a murder now. And we have Tyrone telling Alina and Emma, and he's kind of not particularly sensitive about the way he delivers that news either.
They both dated him. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, by the way, and then rushes off, and then he comes back later and says, oh, I'm really sorry, I forgot that.
Yeah. Corrie reminds Asher she's going to have to tell the police that she was with him, because it was all about the alibis on Mondays, wasn't it?
Not the Alahans, the alibis.
It was the alibi Alahan alibi, wasn't it? That's another storyline title for you. And yeah, he says the police are going to come asking questions now. You were with me, we were at home, we were watching Tenant together or something, didn't you say?
Yes.
Which you pointed out on Twitter was an excellent choice, because even if you had watched it, you wouldn't have understood what was going on anyway. So he's like, I'm sorry, officer, I can't I know I watched it.
Yeah, I watched it, I don't know what happened still. And the policeman would be like, yeah, tell me about it.
So,
could you hear a word anyone said? No, me either.
Of course,
the sound mixing on that, it's shocking.
Of course, Asher was actually with Amy during the incident, so she's going to have to get her on side too. She does not look happy about having to do this, and she doesn't look happy about having to lie about it in the first place, but now getting her friends roped in on it.
I mean, in general, people weren't happy.
That is the theme of this week. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yep. Roy's with Nina later on. She's still at the hospital. Nina only comes out of hospital today, doesn't she? And she's still just in tears. She's bereft and desperate about trying to remember what happened. She's got these vague memories, and they start to come back as dreams later on in the week, but very handily for plot purposes, she can't quite remember exactly what went on Wednesday's episode.
I just need to point out that it really doesn't matter whether she ever regains her memory or not, because she didn't see what happened. She ran away, and I kind of forgot.
And she was attacked from behind, wasn't she?
Yeah, I don't know if she would know who was that attacked her, but she didn't seem to be in the same place that Seb was.
When the beating up happened?
Because she ran away, and Seb was on the floor.
It depends whether she kind of turned and saw who was left.
But the thing is, though, for the purposes of a court case, if she witnessed Corrie and Kelly, say, kicking Seb and then ran away, you could still if a really good lawyer could get them out of that by saying nobody saw.
Yeah.
And weren't there cases of murders where people they couldn't decide who it was that stabbed the person, so they both got off?
Oh yeah, probably.
But what I'm saying is, like, if say Corrie and Kelly's story was sort of like, somebody else came and did it, or we didn't do it, or something. Surely, unless she's witnessed the entire thing from beginning to end, she isn't a witness, is she? She just saw that as she ran off.
Yeah, I guess so. Who knows? I mean,
I've just been listening to a podcast about the O.J. Simpson trial again, which I've listened to loads of different ones and watched so many documentaries, and it really is interesting the sort of things that they say about what is evidence. And how could you argue? Like, I was listening to Marsha Clark, who was the prosecutor, and she was talking about evidence that she chose to leave out of the O.J. Simpson trial, and she was trying to explain some of the things that we left out because a lot the opposing team we knew could poke holes in it by saying, oh well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything that can have holes poked in it is going to have a hole poked in it, because that's what the defense is supposed to do.
You're right. The way that my thoughts on this the way that the story is developed this week. I know I don't want to criticise it for too much because I do think it's a really strong story and it's definitely going to be up there for sure as one of the stories of the year. But it's all going very kind of neatly down the cliche route of the person who seems to be the one that's most to blame gets away with it for a bit and then he's going to get caught out. And it seems to me that the evidence that was briefly mentioned last week that I don't think has even been touched upon this week was the fact that Nina had a trainer mark on her.
Yes.
One of the doctors said that last week, doesn't they? And that has not been brought up at all. And as soon as they find out that that belongs to Corrie's trainer, then surely he hasn't got a leg to stand on in his trainer.
In his trainer, yeah. And the other, I mean, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but before I forget, the whole thing just seems very odd that Corrie is being believed and Kelly isn't on the basis of who came to the police first.
Is that how it works?
I don't believe that's how this works. But anyway, carry on.
Okay, so Nina's saying this is all my fault, and he's like saying, no, don't blame yourself. The perpetrators will be caught. They'll be punished. Don't worry about it. Then we had an odd little scene where Billy has a pray with Todd.
But no, she's blaming herself at this point for not remembering.
Yeah.
Not for what happened.
Well, that's later
that
on she does that, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Billy has a little pray with Todd later, and someone needs to go for a walk. That's one example of what I was saying earlier about the summer scene seeming a little bit unnecessary, superfluous, cut in Canada. Kevin...
Cut in Canada? Oh.
Yeah. Which is going to just make it even harder for the poor Canadian viewers to remember who Summer is next time she walks on screen if all her scenes are go. I don't know. So, Kevin's with Dev later and he tells him about Nina remembering seeing Corrie and Kelly and some of the others before the attack. And Dev, this is news to Dev because he didn't realise just how,
involved they were.
Yeah.
And so Kevin tells him to get Asher away from Corrie.
Yeah. Kelly goes round to see Corrie in the flat and she's absolutely terrified at the moment. He says, well, don't worry about it. I wasn't there. Asher's my alibi. So he kind of... Well, it's not like he obviously doesn't believe it, but he's just telling that story to everyone, even the person who he knows.
No, he's telling her. There. He's going, look, I'm protecting myself. You need to protect yourself as well.
Yeah,
I wasn't there. You weren't there.
He's just completely cocky about it, isn't he? And he's showing, look, it's easy. You just need to say it. Say I wasn't there.
Deny everything.
Get yourself an alibi if you can. Deny everything. It'll go away if the police ask about it because if you get an alibi, all sorted. Abby, meanwhile, is with a detective. She wants to know why they haven't arrested Corrie yet and the others. And obviously the reason for this is because they have to gather enough evidence because once they're arrested, you've got 24 hours to charge them. Is it something like that?
I really wish I knew more. And every time we talk about anything to do with
I think that's the rules.
The thing is, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing as far as Coronation Street is concerned because if you know too much about how the court and justice system works, I think you'd just be really annoyed all the time watching this show because sometimes they follow the rules when it suits them and other times they just bin them out the window. I
think that's what they were saying and I would have thought that maybe Abby has had enough brushes with the law in the past to have known that herself, but I mean she's her judgment is clouded at the moment, isn't it?
That's
she just is wants the revenge. She says that Abby's not satisfied with the police officers' reasons for why they haven't arrested Corrie yet, and she says, well, I'm just gonna get some justice myself then. Amy goes to see Asher in the cafe. I think, was this the only scene that Amy was in this week? I can't remember. We'll probably find out as we go further. But this was fantastic because Dev comes in and says, you didn't tell me that Corrie being a suspect on this. And Asher says, well, look, I didn't do it. He didn't do it. He was with me. And Amy's looking really confused at this point because she obviously knew that she was with her. And then as soon as Dev leaves, Amy's like, you didn't do it. I'm not being an alibi for you. Sorry, you got to tell the truth. And I was really proud of Amy for this point. There was no kind of hesitation in there, was there?
I really thought that some people made some really brave decisions this week, which weren't predictably cliched. Like normally, I feel as though Amy would have gone, oh, dilemma time, and then she would have agreed.
I could just imagine, like, if it was, say,
pensive for a few
exactly,
episodes.
If it was like Sarah Lou in this position, that maybe Adam's been up to mischief again, and Sarah been like, oh, what do I do? And Amy's like, sorry, no, I'm not lying to the police. Good on you. I mean, it's not going to get you character of the week this week, Amy, but moment.
Of all the people involved in this, she's got the least reason to lie. Like, why would she? It makes no sense. She's not being offered anything apart from a risk of getting in trouble with the police. So logically, but the peer pressure of doing something for your friend.
Yeah, and peer pressure is the key in this whole thing, isn't it? I mean, that's going to come up when we talk about how much to blame Kelly may or may not be. Was she peer pressured into it?
Sorry, you can't peer pressure someone into murdering.
You can if you try really hard.
I don't buy it as an excuse. I really don't.
So then we had Toya coming home. And Kelly is packing a getaway bag, and it's not just an escape for Toy's veggie lasagna 3 nights on the trot. I did wonder whether, Kelly opens the fridge and there's a veggie lasagna defrosting there, and Kelly's like, I've had enough of this.
I'm leaving.
I'm out of here. No, she's on the run because it's all getting too over the top for her. And Toya's like, oh, what's going on here then? Summer, meanwhile, tells Todd about Corrie speaking to her the other day, and that was the time he kind of schmoozed in and tried to charm her into telling her that everything was going to be okay. But, you don't want to get caught up in this. You were in a stolen car. And
See, this is
Todd
interesting.
says that you just need to be careful what you say here, Summer.
Todd's been struck off from being a solicitor, and I've kind of
I forget that as well, actually.
So
I'd completely forgotten about that. Todd does have,
legal background.
He knows his stuff.
I don't think he's actually... The thing is, though, he shouldn't really be able to give out legal advice because he's not qualified, but at the same time, what they're going to do...
Can't charge for it.
No, what they're going to do about it?
Yeah.
Take his licence away.
I completely forgot. I wonder whether that will be called upon.
I do wonder. I don't think it will do, but I mean...
I can't see any reason why Summer is going to risk getting into any trouble and Todd's going to have to offer her advice, because I think nobody believes that Summer's involved, and I don't know how they can possibly twist it to make it that she is involved. It does
feel as though this mystery's got very small very quickly.
Yeah, because all of the people who were there have admitted that they were there, haven't
Apart from Kelly and Corrie.
Well, no, they've said that they were there. They've been to the...
No, I know, but... No, yeah, but Corrie's saying it wasn't me, it was Kelly, and Kelly's saying it wasn't me, it was Corrie. And so the whole thing has turned from, who was it that did it? Out of all these people, who was it? To just 2 people.
Yeah, and they have said, have confirmed that neither Asher nor Summer were there with them as well, haven't they?
Which is weird, because I'd be like, right, I'm dragging everyone down with me.
Kelly is back with Toya still, and she's like saying, look, would you lie for me? This is the ultimate foster mum test. And then Toya's like, what on earth? And before she can get a chance to find out what this is about, the police come round and says, look, I'm not lying for you, but Imran will help where he can. He's a lawyer, don't you know? Cops arrest Kelly for assault and murder.
Yeah, and this is when Toya finds out that Seb's dead, because she didn't know before now.
No, yeah, Monday's episode, there was just various people finding out.
Yeah. But it wasn't... sometimes Corrie does this in kind of a monotonous way. I can't remember who it was, but there was a character that everybody found out, or some news that people just kept finding out, and it was like, yeah, they're all having exactly the same reaction, or it's just us watching them get told something. Whereas this was people finding out in different ways, which was more interesting.
Yeah. So Kelly's getting dragged into the cop car. She's totally falling apart because we've seen her guilt already. Even like on Friday's episode last week, we still, as a viewer, even though we're being led to believe quite strongly that Corrie was the one who did everything here, we've seen that Kelly is still feeling very, very guilty about being involved in it.
Has Kelly said, I didn't do it?
I think so. Yeah, she has. She said, she told the police on Wednesday's episode, I was there, I was laughing, I stopped laughing when he started kicking her, I tried to pull him off, who were misses, and then, yeah.
Okay, carry on, sorry.
So, there's the Tyrone and Alina bit there. It's boring.
Oh, they do.
They have a little Victoria Gardens memorial. I mean, maybe they should ask Alia for help on how to properly grieve the unexpected loss of a boring character that everybody kind of says they like at the last minute.
You just light a candle and cry.
You cry for a couple of months solid, yeah. Abby's speaking with Nina later, and I've really found it interesting seeing the interactions with them, because Abby thought Nina was the bee's knees up until just recently, didn't she? And then we've just seen the
typical blimmin' mother-in-law, to tell you that. Can on a dime.
She's just desperate to know anything that Nina can remember, any detail, however small it is. Roy doesn't look at all comfortable with this grilling that his niece is receiving, but Nina says, "No, I want to remember. I want to tell you." Imran, meanwhile, is arriving home just in time to see Kelly getting carted off to the cop shop. Toya tells him about Kelly asking her to lie for her. Asher also sees that as well. And so Asher goes back home, goes back to the flat and finds Corrie there being interviewed by a detective. And she says, this was brilliant. She's like, yeah, I was there. I was with Corrie. And then there's kind of like a beat and she's like, no, I wasn't. I was with Amy. And this is a brilliant moment as well.
Yeah, she says, Corrie would never have done it.
Yeah.
He's gentle and would never be violent. But I wasn't here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much she actually believes that. It feels like she actually honestly does believe
she believes
that.
It.
She knows that. Although, I mean, we did have that great scene on, was it Friday episode last week, when he asked her to lie and she goes and has a little panic attack outside Preston's Petals. So I think she knows that he's capable of more than just this nice guy persona that he's putting on, but maybe she doesn't realise just how bad it can be.
Well, it's difficult to imagine anybody being capable of something like that.
Especially that somebody that you're close to. But yeah, I was, again, like I was proud of Amy, very, very proud of Asher.
I was really proud of her
saying that I didn't
this.
think that she would do that.
No, me too.
I thought that
surprised.
she would string it out for a bit, which kind of ties into what you said about things moving surprisingly quickly in this story this week. Yeah.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah, so she has a bit of a what have I done moment when she realises that thanks to her, Corey's now been arrested, and I think she's probably terrified about what will happen if Corrie when he gets out, and he's going to blame me for this. So Abby and Kevin are back at number 13 later. Abby completely losing her mind over this. She knows it's not Nina's fault, but she just wants to know, that she doesn't remember. She just wants to know. But I think as the week goes on and as Abby hears more about maybe the motivations behind the attack, she's not getting any answers.
There's no maybe about it.
Yeah, she starts to be less understanding of poor Nina. Then we have a great scene where the forensics are going around looking for evidence in the flats. Toya's just kind of sitting there watching as people go in and out. Same with Asher and Amy. I don't know whether you're allowed to do this. Just watch the forensics do their thing. I would have thought that they tape it all up and like police line do not cross, but.
You know, I think that they can
especially during COVID times. Although maybe they did have quite a good set of PPE on, I suppose.
I think sometimes we expect police to do like they do in the on TV and stuff, but I don't know that it ever is quite as what's the word? Finite.
I don't know.
There's certain levels of how seriously you take something. I don't even know what I'm saying. I've kind of lost.
We've never had forensic police around.
But
our
what I'm
house
saying is, like, when you hear about other crimes that have taken place, and the police come round, like say you get burgled, and the police come round, you'd expect them to like take fingerprints or something, but they don't. They just look at it and go, or even if they might not even bother coming round. I know this is a murder, but all I'm saying is that I think we have a certain idea of what it looks like.
I wanted to see a chalk outline on the floor, to be honest.
Yeah.
Moving on, Mr. Corrie comes to the station. What was it? Stefan? I couldn't remember his name at that point, so I've written Mr. Corrie here.
Evil Corrie dad man.
Yeah. He's managed to put down his phone in the business calls because this is quite important now.
Oh, it's a good job it's not print day, isn't it? It's Monday, so he's fine.
Corrie says to him, look, Kelly's going to try and blame me about this, Dad. What am I going to do? And Stefan is very self-assured and said everything's going to be fine. This also seems to be a story a bit about how the rich, the privileged can get away with things. You know, you can buy yourself freedom.
It's definitely a theme of this, but, I'm going to point out that Kelly... People keep acting as though Kelly is some kind of orphaned, waify kind of street urchin, but she's not. She's had a very privileged upbringing, same as Corrie has, with kind of neglectful parents. Mm. She used to live in a massive house with her dad, who was a loan shark, and she's landed on her feet because she's being fostered with a bloody lawyer. So, Corey's definitely flexing his privilege here, but to kind of juxtaposition it against Kelly and claim that she is some kind of disadvantaged woman.
Yeah, you're right.
It's false, I'm afraid. It's not. I don't know if Corey's trying to make it into that, but I haven't forgotten that. I mean, you only have to look at how well turned out and polished Laura is to know that this family is not hurting for money either.
Yeah, that's true. Then we have the scene where the detective goes to tell Abby that they've made some arrests, but they can't give her Seb's things back yet.
Including his body.
Yes. Asher goes to visit Nina and Roy in the hospital again, and Nina is very, very snippy with Asher because she says, you were going to lie about being with Corrie. Sorry, I can see, where your loyalties lie here. She's very, very emotional about this. And Asher says, no, I promise I'll be there for you, whatever you need. But I really don't think it was Corrie that did this. And Nina can't believe what she's hearing because she knows... She doesn't know. She can't remember, but she,
There's
pretty
no way
convinced.
You can't just rule it out.
Yeah, that Corrie was
because
something to do with this.
And Asher's giving him the benefit of the doubt, but... Nina obviously wouldn't.
No, exactly. Nina says, I'll never forgive you. So dramatic. Corrie gets interviewed next. He's no commenting his way all the way through it upon his dad's advice, I suppose. And Stefan is watching very, very carefully during this. And I still can't decide as the week goes on whether Stefan believes that Corrie actually did it or not.
I think it seems like it's kind of him.
Yeah, it kind of is. He's not. He's saying to Corrie, look, you didn't do it. Don't worry, it's going to be fine. But again, maybe he's just saying it to try and convince himself, so that he doesn't even...
But he seems like a very kind of focused, problem-solving sort of man. Like, we were introduced to him previously, and he kind of doesn't seem to have an emotional connection to things. Like, when Dev was trying to talk to him about their children, he was, busy trying to do business calls and stuff. And instead of addressing the emotional issues at hand, he said, that they can move out then. If the problem is you having a problem with them living with us, then they can just have their own place. Which clearly doesn't solve the emotional issue that Dev had, but it certainly solves the skeleton of the problem. So when evil Corrie dad is sitting there with his son, I imagine that he is just thinking, problem equals Corrie accused of murder. How do we get him out of this accusation?
Yeah, whether he did it or not.
It's totally irrelevant to the problem, solving the problem, to him, whether he did it or not.
Yeah, that's true. We have Abby opening Seb's wedding day speech.
We haven't got all the way through it.
Oh, well, the detective...
He hasn't got an alibi.
Yeah, he hasn't got an alibi, but the detective says that you were just trying to prove to your mates how hard you were, and Corey's like, I didn't do it, tell him Dad. So things aren't looking good for Corrie at this point. Abby gets this envelope, doesn't she? It gets posted through the letterbox earlier on in the day, and it's Seb's speech, so she dissolves into tears yet again as she reads it.
No, the police gave it to her because they photocopied it.
Oh, did they? Oh, I missed that. Okay, fine. Yeah, so she has a bit of a cry.
She reads it out, doesn't she? She says, I wanted to hear him say it.
Yeah, it was another very, very nicely written speech. Yeah, made even more tragic by his sad, unfortunate passing. Yeah. Asher goes home and tells Dev about Corrie being arrested. It's like, I need to move back home, Dad. I'm out of my depth here. And Dev nods. Lovely.
Dev's like, I've already...
Love Dev. Sorry, forgiven you.
This is Coronation Street. There are 3 grown men living in your bedroom. Space is at a premium.
Toya is then we have the scene with Toya and Jenny in the Rovers, and that's when Sharon's sticking her neb in saying, I want to be in the story this week, and Jenny's just telling Toya that she needs to trust her own judgment over what to do, because Toya throughout the week we get to see really battling
Battersbying.
She can't decide whether or not to
champion
to stick with Kelly, because she kind of thinks that maybe she did something, and we've only been foster parents for a little while. Do I pull out now? Do I stick with her because I made a promise to her, which is what Imran's saying.
We'll talk about it later, because I have thoughts about this.
Okay. We have a little scene with Fizz and Tyrone. There was a scene earlier in the episode, wasn't there, where Fizz sees Tyrone with some flowers and is like saying, are they for your girlfriend Alina? And Ty's like, no, it's for
Seb,
Abby, actually.
you horrible.
But then they kind of have a bond at the
memorial. But I think then she gets annoyed with him because
she does.
He's a dick.
Yeah, she does, but they have a little bonding moment at the
but then he's a dick.
Yeah, he is. He totally is.
I know.
Just getting that in there. Corrie is livid to see Asher back at home later, packing
Corey's
her stuff up. Yeah, he's been bailed he's not been arrested yet because they're still collecting the evidence.
Has he been bailed then if he's not arrested, or has he just been let go?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
There's a difference.
I don't know the legalese.
I know, but there's a difference.
Yeah, no, he's not been charged with anything, so I suppose it's not. But yeah, he's just been let go, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Imran's debriefing Toya about everything, and that doesn't mean she's getting her pants off. They've all been released under investigation, he says, but this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Which definitely
that in the trailer.
That definitely sounded like a trailer. Has there been a trailer for this story? I haven't seen one.
Well, this will be good for the clip shows.
Yeah, it must.
Maybe this was for the awards clips.
Oh, maybe, Charlie.
Yeah.
So Abby sees Corrie at the end of the episode being taken to his parents' house in the police car, and she cannot believe that he killed her boy and now he's being allowed out, and she kind of chases the car dramatically down the cobbles and sobs as it drives off.
Like
so sad.
Like a dog when their owner goes to work.
Yeah, it was.
Why?
So Sally Carman, wasn't she fantastic throughout the week? She was last week as well. I don't know whether we praised her enough last week. But,
there are so many fantastic actors
good
on this show.
Yeah, I loved her.
So, on Wednesday, Abby's been up in the middle of the night. She can't sleep. Kevin is seeing that she's torturing herself, but she won't come back to bed. Toya and Imran remind everybody that they are out of their depth over Kelly. They're not quite sure what to do. Billy is starting to think that he hasn't spent enough time with Summer, and that's why she's going around murdering people, and he wants to bond with her a bit more to perhaps divert her evil intentions.
Something like that.
Something like that. It's like, look, if you try drugs...
They're great.
Don't do violence, do drugs. They're really easy to get off of.
Don't want to give your uncle Leah a ring.
Nina is trying to discharge herself from hospital because she feels like stir crazy. She wants to get
restless.
out. And she's worried. She's just sitting there with her thoughts. And Roy says perhaps she should stay here because she keeps like wincing and holding her.
Well, she talks about like she keeps imagining these alternative realities. I think is the phrase that she uses. Like, what if we didn't go down this way? What if I hadn't? And in all the situations, it's like, what if I hadn't done this? He would still be alive.
Yeah.
So when Abby starts later in the week pretty much blaming her and saying it was your fault, then it just confirms her worst fears.
So Kevin calls Sal to come around to talk to Abby as their mates. And so Sally says, let's have a walk. And Abby says, no, I want Corrie and Kelly to get arrested and I want my son back. Well, that's not possible, but you can go for a walk. She says, everybody's worried that I'm going to take drugs again. I can tell that that's all what you're thinking. But when I think about that, I just imagine Seb as a young boy pleading with me not to take them. So I'm not going to go off and score. That's stopping me.
I hope that she's right about this.
I think she is. I think this is addressed now and been put to bed because this can't be a story that turns into Abby's on drugs, because we've had Abby's on drugs.
Oh yeah, I mean it was earlier this year that she stole that morphine, wasn't it, when she was in hospital before, and we were worried
this year?
I thought it was this year. I'm
know.
losing track of things now. But yeah, we worried that was going to be her falling off the wagon again, and lucky it didn't particularly go down.
I think this is a convincing thing for her to say.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, equally would have been just as realistic for her, if not more realistic for her, to turn.
Yeah,
to
but
drugs.
I can't be doing with that.
It's not the story. It's not about that. I don't want that to happen. Kelly comes over to see Corrie and he says, you know where my phone is? It's with the police. And they're all going to be checking my social media and stuff, and you better have deleted all your stuff and things like that. And Kelly says, I think we should confess, which makes me wonder what she thinks they should confess about. Stefan bursts. But what you'd have to be a naive idiot, and I don't think Kelly is, to say to somebody that you were only accessory to murder, we should confess. Like, that's going to get him in a lot more trouble than it's going to get her. Yeah. And he's adamant that he's not going to, so why would he listen to her suggesting that they should confess? It makes no sense. No?
Yeah, I think maybe she's saying, look, if we both go and yes, we know it was you that did it, but they'll go easy on you.
Well, Stefan, evil Corrie dad, bursts in and says, "What the hell do you think you're playing at?" Abby is getting phone calls from wedding suppliers and people sending her sympathetic messages, and she's absolutely fed up with it. And I can totally imagine this. I can imagine me being like this because I absolutely hate it when something bad happens and people say, "Oh, I'm sorry." I just hate it. makes me so cross.
You just want to be left alone.
It's nobody's fault. I hate it when you read stuff about like, oh, what to say and what not to say when someone's grieving, because nobody knows what to say really, and nobody should feel bad about what they do say. But I can definitely sympathise with this. She mentions she hasn't listened to Seb's entire voice message yet, and Kevin says you don't have to, you don't need to. He goes to get some milk, so she listens to it. So, she's just contrary, isn't she?
Yeah, and we don't get to see at this point what the end of the message is.
So, Stefan tells Kelly, do not contact my son again. Delete all his contacts, social media, etc. Leave him alone. So she drops off, and then Stefan says to Corrie, you can't let her drag you down, you're innocent. And if you were nearby, forensics will be able to pick up the fact that
they're going to find evidence very easily. I mean, we saw that he put his trainers in the wash, but anyway, there's a lot more than that.
So you need to go in and you need to tell them what happened. So get your story across first. And it's obvious that this story is not going to be the correct story. Kevin sees Abby driving off somewhere, and it turns out she goes to the police station so she can stand in the foyer like a really creepy version of who's it, John Cusack with the boombox on the lawn playing that romantic music to win the ladies' affections, whereas this is Abby holding up a phone with the last dying message of her son to the police
other evidence.
Lady. What?
Well, it's the message with the son plus Nina shouting out Seb, and then we hear Seb grunting as he's getting the 10 bells kicked out of him, and there is a girl laughing.
Yeah. Evelyn's back. She's been to isolation, and Kirk, despite having lived through a pandemic, doesn't know where that is.
They're not even trying with him anymore, are they? Honestly. How did that get greenlit, that line? Did anybody find that funny?
Some people did. I saw some people saying that was funny.
It's like, seriously.
It just beggars belief that he could not know what isolation means.
There were a couple of things in that
because
scene
also
that
isolation doesn't sound like a place name.
No, it's
like
just
the construction of the English language would indicate to you that...
the other thing that I didn't like in that scene was the tired cliche of the cream horns, wasn't it? And I know that, we're just as bad about stupid, silly things like that. But
we've got no leg to stand on.
But we're not professional flagship drama for ITV. I think...
we're not primetime ITV.
You can do better than this, Coronation Street.
Soap drama on one of the biggest weeks of the year.
I feel so bad for Andy Wyman that he has to give lines like that, honestly.
I think the only reason that... Roy even sells cream horns is for the comedic value.
Oh, totally. That's the only reason they stow knickers at Underworld.
Yeah. So Kirk's there being a div, and Roy and Evelyn's like, huh, what a div. And then Roy says, don't have a go at him just because he's a div. This is what happened. This is why Seb is dead, because people can't tolerate those that are different and stupid.
Yeah, Roy really gets his knickers in a twist.
I didn't like this.
Scene,
I thought it was really clumsy.
Why?
Because it was like, oh, really? It's Roy being sarcastic about somebody, talking about a cream horn and not knowing what isolation is not the same thing as booting somebody to death because of what his girlfriend.
I think Nina says he's as thick as a cream and one of your cream horns or something, and I think
it wasn't even a zinger, was it?
No.
It's if you're going to get your knickers in a twist about something, don't get it in such a poor joke as that.
I get how this has probably been playing on Roy's mind since the fact that maybe they were attacked because of the way she looks and everything, and he did have that lovely scene with Evelyn later on where he talks about Hayley and how she had to fight prejudice all her life and everything, but it seemed like a little bit unnecessary conflict. But hey, Evelyn's back, so I'm not going to complain too much.
It was as you say, resolved very quickly, so it wasn't too much of a big deal, but I just thought it was clumsy.
It was weird how she said she's been in isolation as well, because the last thing we heard was she went off jet setting with her friend James, didn't she?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What was the good thing? Oh, I did kind of like when Kirk was telling Evelyn, have you heard that Tyrone and Fizz have split up? And she's like, oh really? I had no idea. And he didn't, and he thought she was being serious. And then she gave him a funny look. But
okay, so I guess it was in character because Roy does seem to fly off the handle.
Yeah.
In a kind of inappropriate way sometimes about things that are
I think it's
It's
very
like misplaced
it's in
emotion.
character for him to fight for the the
Underdog,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, but it just felt like came out of nowhere.
yeah, it did.
Kelly sees Imran and Toya talking about her, and she thinks they're trying to get rid of her. And they say, no, we're trying to do what was best for you, but there's going to be a risk assessment.
About whether you can stay here with us or not, isn't it?
Oh, I thought it's to do with the lasagnas. They've heard that we're feeding you vegetable lasagna 5 times a week, so they're coming to do a risk assessment to see if you're protein deficient. So, there's going to be a risk assessment, and right then, Laura turns up. This is Laura Neelan, Kelly's evil mum who did a runner.
He swans in and out of the programme every 4 or 5 months or so.
Police are keeping Abby's phone while they identify the voices that are on the message, and they'll let her know when they work out who they are. Laura was like, I think she's so infuriating, but I think people, like, she kind of reminds me of real people that are like this, because she's like, look, don't have a go at me. I just wanted a break from being a mum. It's difficult. You don't know what it's like. I heard about all this kerfuffle, so I thought I'd come right over to be a good mum. And Toya and Imran are trying to stand their ground, and Laura's like, you guys are rubbish foster parents. I leave for like 6 months, turn around, and my daughter's murdered somebody. And it's all your fault. And Imran says that we're going to go and cooperate with the police. And Laura says, no way, that's the last thing you should be doing.
Yeah, it's a shame, because I think if Kelly had gone to the police when she initially wanted to, maybe she could have got in there first before Corrie had said his thing. And as we know, the police believe the first person to say something.
Yeah,
it's just easier that way.
It's like look, I've written this down now. I'm not going to change it. People coming to me with all these different editions and stuff. No,
I'm just going to go with what the first person said.
I'm not an editor. I'm a police officer.
I think that Sam is going to build like a time machine. He's going to be like Stewie on Family Guy, and then they can go back. Kelly can confess first, and that's how she's going to get out of this.
I think we've said that Sam's going to build a Stewie time machine before on this podcast, and I can't remember why, but I think that there's no coincidence that idea keeps cropping into our heads. We can manifest it as reality if we keep talking about it.
Yes.
So, Corrie comes into the police station where Abby's there waiting for her phone, I guess. And she sees Corrie coming in with his dad, and she leaps up and has a go at him. And Stefan's like, leave my son alone, he did no wrong. And Corrie says, Dad, stop. It's time I told the truth. So the police then want to speak to Kelly, and Laura says, I'm taking her there, goes off with her.
Yeah, they want to speak to her as a result of whatever it is that Corrie has said, and at this point we don't know what he said.
We can guess though, can't we?
Yes.
Evelyn comes back to the cafe, Roy's calmed down, but
this is the bit we said about earlier, wasn't it?
Talking about, there's so much hatred in the world, I was baffled that people were so nasty to Hayley, and they didn't even know her. This is what I don't get. I don't find this baffling at all. People are cruel. And it's so easy to be cruel to somebody that you don't know. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Mm.
It's more likely that people will be cruel to you when they don't know who you are than it is if they do.
But Roy's, everything's very black and white in his head, isn't it? If I don't think that, why do other people?
I know.
Think
I don't.
that
I
way?
just find sometimes I do find that I find it a bit annoying on Coronation Street when something bad happens and then we have to listen to people saying, I can't believe that people would do such a thing. Like.
We've had that with the Baileys a few times as well, haven't we? Like, this
like,
world
you really
that we
can't believe it. You can't believe
bringing
it.
A child into
after like literally witnessing murders, stabbings, affairs, fires, kidnappings, hostages.
You can't believe that people.
You still can't believe that people are horrible. Okay. So now I've lost where I am. Oh, he's like, and Nina now. What will she do? Will she ever be the same again? I hope so, but it looks like she's having a bit of a crisis. But you've got to have the crisis before you can get through the other side.
She'll be fine.
She's going to be like she's going to turn herself into a chrysalis, and she'll come out like a butterfly.
She's going to be moshing it up by the end of the year, I guarantee.
Hopefully. It's not very good. It's not really a very good moral of the story if Coronation Street's like, and so she stopped dressing like a goth and everying was fine from then on.
Everyone judged her on her personality, and she's just great. So.
Yeah, so it was fine. Toya is trying to tell Imran that they've done all they can later. He's very idealistic and he feels bad and he feels like they've let her down.
Yeah, he goes on a bit of a moral crusade this week, doesn't he? He's like, well, I've made a vow to protect my daughter.
Billy comes around and says Laura was coming, banging on my door, wanted to speak to Kelly. And when she turned up, she didn't even realise that Kelly was in trouble. She didn't come back because Kelly needed help. She came back for a different reason. It was just a
coincidence that she happened to come back at the same time. Who'd thought that?
Well, we'll find out what happens in a minute. Paul finds Summer in Victorian Gardens saying, oh, I wish I'd never been there. It's all my fault because I should have made Kelly leave when I left. I don't think that would have had any impact on it whatsoever.
Why?
Well, because what would have happened differently?
Well, Kelly wouldn't have been involved in it, and she's been Kelly's friend, hasn't she?
Yeah, but the thing is, though, why is she so loyal to Kelly? Oh, if only I hadn't let my friend be a murderer.
I don't think that Summer's the sort of person that's got lots of friends.
I know, she needs to go online and just make some friends on the internet or something. Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? I can get what but she hasn't examined it very far. If she's stopped at, oh, it's my fault that Kelly killed somebody.
But it's also like, if Kelly had gone, if Kelly hadn't have gone, then yeah, she would have just been right out of it. That's all it is. I think. I
know, but it's still kind of admitting, in a way, that you think your friend is like such a weak-minded person that it was purely a matter of circumstance as to whether she turned into a murderer or not. Really, it's down to Kelly to not kick someone to death, not Summer to stop her from being in the vicinity of a kicking. Imran turns up at the police station, calls Laura out over what Billy had told him, which was apparently that Laura's bloke kicked her out, and so she's just coming looking for her daughter so she can, I don't know, get benefit. I don't know. She certainly was only there because she didn't have anywhere to live. And he says, I'm going to tell Kelly why she's really there if you don't let me represent her. So she relents, and he goes in for the interview with Kelly. She denies having anything to do with it, says it wasn't her. Police say, that's strange because your clothes are covered with blood. And we've just had a detailed account of the attack that puts you as the main driving force. So they leave them alone, Kelly and Imran, and he says, you have to tell the police exactly what happened. And she says, I can't because you'll hate me and Toya will hate me as well. And he says, I vowed to care for you when I took you in and I will have your back whatever. So Kelly decides to tell the truth, and I still don't know whether this is the truth. This seems a bit convenient.
It is. It felt like it was to me, and I'm not necessarily happy that
I think this is a bit cowardly.
Can I say
I think this is cowardly? So basically Kelly says I wasn't anything to do with what happened. I think it's really cowardly of Coronation Street to not have somebody who is kind of semi-sympathetic being the perpetrator of a crime. Because I think it's really important for us to think about the fact that many of us would rather it was Corrie by himself, because we'd rather believe that this guy who's got a bad personality and is an unlikable person and is also a man, we'd rather he was the sole perpetrator than this crying, beautiful blonde girl who's had it tough. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I think in real life, I think she would have booted him.
I think so too.
I think she would have got caught up in it.
That from what we'd seen of her before the attack, I mean, she had already hit Nina.
Yeah, she was the one, honestly. She instigated the violence.
She was drunk. She was trying to impress Corrie as well, and she thought, I can have him. I can have any man I want.
And they didn't intend to kill Seb.
I don't buy that she, wouldn't have put a little boot in.
I think that it feels a bit.
But I think we're supposed to believe that she didn't.
It's just a bit convenient, isn't it?
It's weird because it's like, it seems like the only two outcomes at the moment that there are is she gets sent down for murder and Corrie gets off scot-free, or she's completely, let off all charges and sanctified and everything's hunky-dory for her, but I still think that she absolutely should get into...
She's culpable.
Yeah, she is.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, we were sent a link on Wikipedia about...
I can't remember what it's called now.
Basically, it's if you were involved in a crime that ended up with dire consequences, you can be charged for the worst
whether or
outcome.
not you were.
Whether or not you did it yourself, the fact
Yeah.
that you were involved in something that could have, like, there was an example of, say, two people were involved in a streetcar race, and one of them knocks over and kills a pedestrian, and they both get charged with reckless and whatever it is. What's it called? Reckless driving and manslaughter. Is it?
Yeah.
They would both get charged with the same crime because but from the law's perspective, they were both being in. They both exhibited the same behaviour, and it was kind of only luck that one of them. But that just seems wrong. Honestly, that just seems wrong to me. But I don't really care because I'm never going to be in a street race.
But yeah, I do definitely think that Kelly.
But by
should...
the law, this makes Kelly just as culpable as Corrie. So it's irrelevant as to whether she actually did kick him or not.
But she not only does she say that she didn't kick him, but she says I was trying to get him off him. I was begging him to stop.
Well, let me just say. So she says, "Oh, we were just messing around. We followed them, but we were just like shouting at them and
She
stuff."
said it was just verbals.
It was only verbals.
the
It's
kids
just
say?
bants. I was just banter about her being a goth, but it was harmless. And then Eli shoved Nina down and then they gave chase, and then Corrie pushed Seb down, and then he started kicking him, and Summer wasn't there, and I was like, "Don't do it, please stop!" And I was horrified, honestly, I can't believe it. And the detective says, "That's funny because we've got a video recording."
I loved how the detective was like, "Oh yeah, well, what do you think of this then?" And pulls out Abby's phone or whatever, the copy of it.
And it's like her going, "Ha ha ha ha."
I didn't really get why they needed to keep Abby's phone for quite so long, because couldn't she just like airdropped it over to them or something?
Just wanted to look at the pictures.
Oh, what a lovely wedding dress.
So she says, "No, I was only laughing because he pushed him over, but as soon as they start kicking him, I stopped laughing." And the detective says, "Well, that's not what Corrie says. Plus, we got evidence you slapped Nina, which is what started the assault." And they say, "Well, Corrie came and told us voluntarily, so he can't be lying." So the whole logic here is, honestly, I find the premise ridiculous that the police just go, "Yeah, whoever comes to us first is the truth teller, and all the other people are liars if they have a different story."
Yeah.
But I also don't believe Kelly when she says that she didn't do anything, because she's got blood all over her, and I really honestly
I think the blood is supposed to have been.
I don't care, Michael. If you're close enough to a violent crime to get blood on you and you're not stopping the person from doing it, you're just as responsible.
But that's what she says.
Yes, she said, "Oh, I tried to stop him."
I think that
Don't believe her.
I think
like
I
her.
probably do believe her.
Well,
I don't believe that that's what she would have done. I think in real life she would have, put a bit of a boot in herself. But I think that she was telling the truth there. She was trying to get Corrie off. The blood was being splattered onto her from where he was kicking her. I think we're supposed to be. I think that she's innocent in some way.
I don't.
But
I also just want to recognise a bias that I don't think is widely acknowledged in people, which I think is still a pretty strong bias, which is that I do think that Kelly's attractiveness is making me dislike her and judging her more harshly than I might have done somebody else.
well, it's also the experience of that kind of person that you've had in your own past as well.
But I think that we don't really talk about this very much, but we definitely have a strong reaction to people who are more attractive, and a lot of the time that works in their benefit and they get treated more nicely, and it's a proven fact that if you're attractive you're more likely to earn more money, you get treated better in shops, etc, etc. But it can be a double-edged sword because, for example, I remember having a friend when I was younger who was very pretty, and she used to say that nobody took her seriously and they all thought she was stupid all the time. In this case, I think that because Kelly's kind of uses her looks a lot to get away with things, that has kind of prejudiced me against her to think that she's bad. And I'd also like to point out that in America, in some high-profile trials, and I'm kind of blanking on the name. Is it Jodi Arias who did this?
That's me.
I'm not asking you. It's a hypothetical
I would
question.
know.
They deliberately dressed her down during her trial, made her wear glasses, made her wear very conservative outfits and look dowdy, not downy, as Mavis might, so that people wouldn't be prejudiced against her,
Yeah.
or think that because I think that because the other thing is being like a party girl and being like kind of involved in that scene of like acting out with the lads and everything. If somebody's got that look about them, you can kind of believe that they might indulge in that behaviour.
Yeah.
Whereas there you've got Asher with her big specky glasses and a science book going, I would never do such a thing. You'd be more likely to say, yeah, definitely not Asher, but look at Kelly.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's important to acknowledge that there is a prejudice there against her because of her looks. It's so sad. It's so hard when you're pretty. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. So Abby's back at number 13 telling Kevin about this message and where she's been. She's been to the police station. She talks about the fact that Kelly and Corrie laughing was probably the last thing Seb heard, and she's desperate to get to the bottom of this. She wants justice for her son. She let him down all his life, and now she's letting him down again. And this was a fantastic scene because she's crying and she's telling Kevin, I just lie awake at night and I imagine what I would do to them if I got hold of them. And Kevin's like, that's natural, that's normal. And she's like, it's not natural what I've imagined doing to them. I've imagined setting them on fire and watching and kicking their heads in. And I was like, yes, this is like the vicious...
It's very much in character for Abby, for sure.
Yeah, but she just wants to hurt people. And this is like the tragedy of the human race, that when we are... when something terrible happens to us, we want to do it back to somebody else. This is just the tragedy because it's so understandable. And this is the other thing that people kind of don't acknowledge. Like I think most people were watching her going, yeah, we would love to. How many people would love to watch a scene with Abby kicking Corrie to death? Think about how horrible that is and how terrible. And what's the difference, really?
Yeah, I mean, some people would, and it's a bit like, people were baying for Jeff's blood.
I know, but when I mean, it's an entertainment programme, and I don't really feel bad about the fact that I was like, yeah, go and kick his face in. He's not a real person, but people don't cut that off when they talk about real life situations.
Yeah.
And I find it strange that people can't see how they're only perpetrating the violence that they claim to hate so much. But really, a lot of the time when people condemn it, it's only because, in their opinion, it's being done against the wrong person.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some people saying online this past week, reminding us that Seb himself had a violent streak, and there was the scene where he beat up Jackson, didn't he? And then it was, we weren't... I mean, Seb was definitely painted as being in the wrong then, but...
Human beings are violent.
Yeah.
It's part of our nature, and just as the same way that we are primed to discriminate against other people who aren't in our group, we're also primed to be violent. And I think it's not a good thing to pretend that's not true, because you can't combat it if you don't acknowledge that it's reality. It's all very nice to pretend that we can get rid of this part of our our nature, but we can't, because that's why how we've evolved to survive. Every single one of us is alive because at some point probably we were in a group of humans that fought another group of humans over some kind of resource and won, that's why we've survived so long. It's part of our evolution. So anyway, that was a bit of a weird Roy rant, wasn't it? But I just think we need to, instead of like approaching it from let's kind of like hope that we can stop doing it.
Yeah.
That's what people seem to say. Oh, I hope that we live in a world one day where there's no violence. Let's just acknowledge why that happens and try and combat it from that perspective.
So deep.
Well, it's about education, like I said before. The more you know about somebody, although I will say there is a certain point where you know too much and you start to hate them again. Let's just learn just enough about each other to not want to kick each other to death.
Good plan.
That's going to be my speech to the UN.
Right, Friday.
I'm not going to be an ambassador, am I?
We found out at the end of Wednesday's episode that Kelly's got a plea hearing. She's been arrested. She's been charged with everything basically, and she's got a plea hearing on Friday's episode. which starts off with Nina having a nightmare, and sadly we don't get to actually see the nightmare. I wondered whether we'd ever get like a proper flashback like we have had a few more times recently in Coronation Street, but we just get, you know, her hearing things that happened last Wednesday night. There's also a little awkward encounter between Roy and Abby outside the shop, which sets the scene for the fact that she's going to kind of take against Nina more and more as the episode goes on. But they're interrupted by police arriving outside number 13, and they're there to say that Eli and Jason, I didn't even know that this other character had a name before. What was it? Eli Higginson, or some awesome name like that he had.
He sounds like a kind of 18th century botanist.
Yeah, I know. They've both pled guilty to beating up Nina, and they've also charged Kelly, who's got this bail hearing today. Like I said, nothing yet for Corrie.
So in one fell swoop, they've eliminated Eli and Jason from this dilemma of who's going to rat who out.
Yeah.
And also,
it was never going to be about those two characters, has it?
No,
So
but
it's
it was
nice
a bit complicated that, you know, they were all involved. But we know from watching it that Eli and Jason followed Nina, who was running, so they weren't there. They couldn't have seen the same way that Nina couldn't have seen.
They also tell Abby that they believe that the attack was triggered by Nina's appearance, and Abby's like, what, so it was nothing to do with Seb? I would have thought that she probably would have been maybe having these thoughts beforehand as well anyway, as a possibility. I don't know, but yeah, she now is starting to realise that if he had never gone out with Nina in the first place, perhaps he'd still be alive and kick in now. Maybe that's the wrong choice of words. Laura shows up at Toya in Imran's flat later, and she actually calls her R. Kelly.
She always calls her R. Kelly.
Brilliant. She says if R. Kelly gets bail, she can come and live with me, actually, a real mum. Imran's fuming about this, and Toya, you said she was being pretty inscrutable, didn't you? We couldn't tell at this point still, like, does Toya think this is maybe for the best, or, you know, should she be feeling like she should be fighting for this foster daughter more? I don't know, but yeah, so then we have Nina telling Roy about her dream, or was it a dream, or was I remembering? And she says that somebody pushed Seb from behind, then he fell, and then when she woke up, she heard Corrie's voice. She's now more determined than ever. She's convinced that Corrie was definitely the one who killed Seb.
Can I explain what actually happened?
Yes.
It was Pat Phelan's ghost whispering in her ear.
I did wonder that. I also thought about Pat Phelan in today's episode.
As we know, it's very easy to influence somebody when they're unconscious in hospital.
Yeah. More Paul and Todd stuff. I'm not even going to bother about that. Honestly, I don't think anything exciting happened in that part of the story today. So it is time for the plea hearing.
Time for Imran to show off his lawyering skills.
Yes. He does a pretty decent defence of R. Kelly, saying that she's not a flight risk or something, he says.
So I promise she won't run away.
She's not going to run away. I'm a foster dad. We're going to do everything we can to stop her. Maybe she could be let out with a tag if that makes it feel any better.
We'll give her a curfew.
Yeah, hasn't she already got one? Didn't she get in trouble when she got home at 9:25
I do feel
the
a
other
bit
week?
like the judge was right here, because it's like, well, I presume when you took her in, one of the rules that maybe have been an unspoken one was don't boot people to death, and she still did that. So I don't know why you think you can stop her from doing anything else.
Anyway, bail refused. I like the judge today. She was suitably serious, wasn't she? Humourless.
Why do you always use that as a description for people that really have no reason? Like, what's she supposed to do?
I don't know.
You kicked this over to me, Imran, but it was a bit of an own goal. I'm afraid I'm going to have to refuse bail.
Anyway, she says, look...
And then she squirts him with her plastic flower.
Due to the seriousness of the charges and failing to surrender to the court, Kelly is going to be remanded.
When did she do that?
Pending trial. Well, the fact that she didn't come and into the police station and said, I'd done it. When she had the chance.
But she didn't do it, apparently.
Oh, no. Nina tells the detective about the dream, and not unsurprisingly, that's just what
I said.
Unsurprisingly,
when she said she had this dream, I was like, nobody's going to be convinced by the fact you had a dream.
Yeah, let's just bring in our Joseph, our dream interpreter for the Pharaoh here. What do you make of this?
Oh, I think Corrie done it.
Yeah, Corrie definitely done it. No.
Don't come up to people and go, I had a dream that Corrie did it, because the police are not going to... I'm sorry, but we can't submit your dream as evidence.
Maybe one day in the future.
Why don't you ask a psychic to see if they can locate the memory in time?
Yeah.
I know what we can do. We can get a Ouija board and ask Seb himself. I can't believe we didn't think of this before now.
Nina's like, I'm on it.
Yeah,
I
don't
know
worry, I've
all
got
of
one. Seriously, she should have said, I remembered that Corrie did it.
I don't know, she's too honest. I don't think...
But the thing
I
is, she
think she
wouldn't
would've
really
cracked.
be lying because she thinks that she remembered in a dream.
No, she doesn't know whether she remembers. She's
Okay.
saying to Roy, like, I don't know
But it's not
whether...
convincing. How can she complain when she says, I think I had a dream? Okay, well, we're not accepting those.
Nina decides it is about time to come home.
And can I also point out that now she's completely, what's the word? Invalidated herself as giving evidence in future, because
If
next
she
time
says, actually, I
did
have remembered it. And they're
they'll be
like, really? You
Is it
sure
just
you
your
didn't
dream
dream
again?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's kind of, she's not proving to be a reliable witness here.
No. I wonder, is she going to remember it? And I'm still not convinced. She's not going to know.
But she sort of has.
She kind of has, but she wasn't there. She ran off before the beating started, so I don't know whether there's very much to remember.
I don't think that she is a witness to this crime.
No.
So it's kind of irrelevant. All that she can testify to is that she now remembers that Corrie was there anyway. But Corey's already said that he was there and he saw Kelly doing it.
Which is why I think that this trainer mark on Nina is going to be his downfall.
But why aren't the police getting everybody's trainers?
Well, exactly, because it's not time in the plot for that to
Yeah,
happen
that's
yet,
true.
really.
I also don't know. I mean, okay.
I hope it's not going to be too long, because that's going to be playing on my mind. I don't need to be like, months down the line and then they suddenly...
Where suddenly
a twist.
one of the detectives wakes up in the middle of the night
Hang
and
on
goes,
a minute.
we should have got the
We should
trainers.
have found that out, yeah. Anyway, Nina says it's time for me to come home, Roy. She's got a muddled memory. She's very, very frustrated about this.
She's doing, it looks like at the end of this, we're going to have some kind of comic drawn by Nina of the crime. Because she's drawing boxes.
She was. She should have submitted that as evidence, shouldn't she? I've drawn a picture of this is what happened. Can you count this?
This is the storyboard, actually.
Anyway, she
Roy brings her clothes and makeup.
Yes, and she kind of lifts it up, and you can tell she's thinking, should I wear this? Is this really me? Because
this is a very natural reaction.
Yeah, definitely. Then we have a scene with Abby at the funeral parlour with George kind of trying to arrange the Aretha Franklin, and Kevin says, Kevin's like, oh, Abby, I had a dead son once. I remember. Don't let anyone tell you I've forgotten about that. I definitely have got a dead son, and it was dead sad.
But guess what? You forget about it.
Yeah, you should. That's what he needs to say. I know it seems bad now, Abby, but I promise you, I guarantee that a couple of years down the line, you're going to forget about it, and people will give you hell for it. Anyway, she gets mad when George suggested some gothic-themed funeral.
Well, he says, I thought something to be more unusual, perhaps in keeping with his what Seb was like, so maybe we could play Cradle of Filth.
Yeah, he's barking at the wrong tree a bit there, isn't he? And then she says, I don't want any of that rubbish, and storms off.
Unfortunately, this would have been the perfect thing to have said if it was Nina who was dead.
Yes.
But can I also
George
just
is a
point
new
out
character, he
the
doesn't
inherent gothicness of a funeral in itself?
Yeah, true.
Do you need to ham it up? Is it not already bad enough that there's a dead body in a coffin and crucifixes everywhere and wreaths? It's already pretty gothic.
Well, you do get these celebration of lives, don't you, Morton?
Oh, these people and their namby-pamby balloons and colours and wicker baskets.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not traditional.
Nina, in the hospital, is gothing herself up, having a few more flashbacks. She's putting her eye makeup on. I thought that was a pretty great scene. I love all this stuff with Nina and the one.
We're being a lot more irreverent this week than we were last week.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's fine.
I know, but I think we just needed a break from being serious.
We were serious last
week.
We
acknowledged the seriousness of the situation last week, and this week we are being a bit more free with
Billy finds out that Summer's not been at school. Boring. Imran comes home. He's gutted. He lost. Kelly's
I can't believe
up.
that, he left Toya sitting there waiting for him to come home before he said, she's not.
Didn't text her.
She's like, I've taken 3 veggie lasagnas out.
Yeah, he could have told me.
freezer.
What are we going to do now?
Oh, no, we'll have to have 1.5 each, she says, secretly rubbing her hands together.
Aralia and Ryan still living there, by the way.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe they can have some. I'll tell you what, Ryan would hoover anything
I get a feeling that maybe they're supposed to be and they're just laying low at the moment.
They're just being tactful.
Craig's definitely moved out, hasn't he? But
what's wrong with a nice aubergine parmesan, Toya?
Oh yeah, you had one of those this week, didn't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, Toya says Toya says if Kelly gets out, she's going to need to be away from everyone on the street because she's going to be living across the road from the person whose son she was accused of killing or whatever.
Well,
it's all going to be a bit awkward.
She's also, you know, she's allowed to have emotions about things. She's not talking to Kelly about this. I think it's important to acknowledge that she's talking to her partner here, and she's allowed to have reservations about the fact that this girl that they've taken in for not very long has now been accused of murder. I think it's okay to be not okay with the fact.
Yeah, we're in over our heads a little bit here.
And also, I don't really want a murderer living in my house.
We didn't even have any scenes together at this house before last week. We barely know her.
And, you know, it isn't appropriate for her to live there because the mother of the murdered son lives around the corner.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, she's completely right.
So,
but at the end of the week, she backs down, which kind of annoyed me.
Nina gets back to the street later and confronts Asher for sticking with Corrie, blames her about all this. And then Abby comes over and lays into
She's
Nina.
Like, oh, you having to go at Asher? It's not Asher's fault, it's your fault.
You're a freak. She's like, you ain't wise, you ain't woke, you're a weirdo. It's your fault that he's lying on a slab. Asher stands up for Nina, but Abby's not backing down over this.
Of looking like a Victorian, which I think if Nina wasn't so sad at being called a weirdo as well, she would have taken that as a really good compliment. Yeah.
Imran tells Toy that Kelly's going to be housed with other people if she gets out. He's heard from the foster services or something that she's not going to go back. So that's all over. And Toya says, oh, maybe it's for the best. We'll have someone else to worry about soon. Try again.
And she says you're not supposed to get attached to any one child, which seems like a really... I mean, obviously that makes
that's
sense.
What they experienced with Mason, didn't it? She got utterly besotted with that little baby. And
babies don't murder people.
Maybe with Kelly, she has kind of taken a step back. And if she hadn't, if Kelly had been their first foster child, maybe she would have been more on Imran, with Imran saying, no, we've got to do everything we can.
Imran's like, I don't want to talk about it. We failed her.
Yeah, they have a little bit of a falling out, don't they, Imran and Toya?
Well, he says we failed her.
Yeah, and Imran, he can see that Toya isn't as committed to Kelly as he is.
We didn't fail her.
Impressed.
We didn't fail her.
We've barely known her for a month, so it's not really our fault.
Of all the people in this week who blame themselves for Seb's death, Imran trying to pin the blame on him and Toya was the most left field one.
Asher comes and tells Roy and Carla about Nina, about what happened in the street. She's not come home yet. Roy's got an idea about where she might be, which we'll get to later. Toya and Imran they're striding down the street, and Imran at this point seems to be trying to apologise to Toya because she's like saying, you don't need to walk me to work, and I think he doesn't like the fact that they've had a bit of an argument about it.
I know, but they're so sweet, but I just want them to have a bloody argument with each other because it looks like they're just so polite to one another.
I know, aren't
they're
they?
like, no, I was wrong. Sorry, Toya. And she's like, no, Imran, you were right to bring your concerns to me, and we will table it for the next house meeting. It's like, just shout at each other and maybe throw a vase and then calm down and then maybe have a nice shag under the table like you enjoyed so much. Well, maybe they've lost the keys to the solicitor office and that's why they're so wound up. But you know what I mean? They're just so nice and polite and like...
Yeah, need a bit more passion.
It just feels like somebody, like a therapist. Like literally, it's like the therapist's method of what's the word? Managing conflict in a household.
Conflict resolution.
Yeah, they just want them to shout at each other.
Well, we don't get to see Toya shout at Imran, but we do see her laying into Laura later, which was great. Laura strides up to them, and that did look like a little bit of a socially distanced standoff.
I really
that
wanted
they were
Toya to smack her in the face.
She was getting close, and we do like it when Toya's Battersby comes out, which is sadly, pretty rare these days. But she calls Laura a disgrace of a mother.
Well, hang on a minute. Laura comes up and she's like, oh, you said you'd look after my daughter and now she's in prison. Well done. And Toya's like, excuse me, I think you'll find that you're the disgrace around here, not us.
Yeah.
And then somehow, which I found this actually kind of offensive because Coronation Street loves to use this against women all the time. somehow from this Laura goes, aha, you're a barren woman. Only a barren woman would say such a thing and be so involved in someone else's child. And then obviously that hits Toya's weak
she is
spot.
spoiling for a rumble by this point, and then luckily Sarah Lou comes out to stop them just in time.
Has there ever been a woman on Coronation Street who hasn't had a child who's ever gotten away with not being accused of being a barren, bitter woman? Is there? I don't think there is.
Carla, this is a weird scene later. Abby starts
Hang on, we didn't really dwell on it enough, but
What?
they really were about to have a fight.
Yes, they were.
Toya and Laura were about to have a fight.
I would have loved to have seen
Sarah
that.
comes
I
out
need
and
to see
says,
that in the future, please.
You can't touch each other, COVID regulations, come inside, Toya. You're showing up the factory. We can't have our... Hang on a minute, what do you do? Our social media director making a scene outside the office. I don't know.
I thought it felt like really patronising when they were in the office, and Sarah was like being, and I was like, is Sarah really Toya? Oh, I guess she is kind of Toya's boss, really. But if I was Toya, I'd be like, sorry,
Sarah, shut up.
Yeah, basically.
Well, no, they come into the office together, and Sarah was going, oh, you know, are you all right? And Toya starts to open up to her. I was thinking, why is she in there? Oh, she works there. I forgot about that.
I didn't forget that, but
I did.
If I was Toya, I couldn't deal with taking orders from Sarah Louise. I would feel like
an idiot.
It's below me to have Sarah Lou as my boss.
Well, she says, Toya says to Sarah, what if it really was Kelly that did it? What if she was the one that killed him? And Sarah's like, would it make you feel any better about backing away? It's like, excuse me, sorry, no, I was talking aloud here. I'm the therapist.
I'm the counsellor.
Get lost.
Yeah.
You thought Dead Man was haunting your baby. You can't tell me anything.
So I was going to say earlier that we had this funny scene where Abby was taking a sledgehammer to some poor customer's car later. I don't think we find out whose car this is. There's no ramifications yet for this.
Carla walks up and to the garage, and Abby's just there like smashing the heck out of the bonnet of a car, and Carla's like, sorry, I didn't know you were busy. And Abby's like, it's going to fail the MOT. Yeah, whose car is it? And the way she was doing it, she's kind of like, she was really passionately mad about it, but it also kind of looked quite, she's being quite industrious, you know, like, sorry, Carla, I really can't
hammering
stop.
out a dent.
I have to get this whole thing hammered before 5 p.m. because I'm clocking off.
We cut to Roy later. I'm skipping a few
Hang
bits
on a
of
minute.
summer. What?
Why did Carla turn up there?
I don't...
She says, calm down. And then this is when Abby says, why would I? Because Seb took a bullet that was meant for Nina.
Yeah, she's taken out of frustration. So Roy finds Nina later at the site of the crime. He goes down to the alleyway, doesn't he? Which
Is
I
that
think
where that was?
Well, no, I think it was. Yeah, Nina was saying if I go back and it might trigger some memories. I think this was the scene that if you're on the set and you go underneath the viaduct next to the Rovers and turn left, that's where it leads to the prop store. I think they filmed that out there.
Is that where all the sheds are?
Yeah, sheds
and there's also a load of gravestones
and stuff.
That's probably why she was there.
Yeah. She's like, what's wrong with me? Why does everybody hate me so much? What if they're right, Roy? What if I've been wrong all this time and I am a freak? So she's starting to doubt herself, but she starts talking about again that she's not a goth. She's not a goth because of trying to rebel against other people's ideas of what normal. She's just being herself, but is herself. It has caused all this to happen.
Well, she says, I thought their attack was an ego defence.
Yeah. And she says, we're the freaks, Roy, you and me.
Quote.
Yes, and then she goes home and has a sad wash. It reminded me very, very much of that scene where Asher takes the ripped photo and holds it up against her. During the skin lightening storyline. I think that one was more arty and a bit more effective. But I did enjoy this one, seeing her, reveal herself. And because when she's been on the street up until now, in the last few scenes, she's got all her white makeup on again. And then when she washes it off, it reveals the bruises underneath. And I've kind of forgotten about that, even though that's what we've been watching all week. But it was nicely done.
So she washes all of the gothic makeup away.
Yeah, because she wants to be normal.
She wants to.
In inverted commas.
I don't think she wants to be. I think she just said, I can't be myself anymore.
Yeah,
she completely acknowledges that is her as a person. The makeup that she's covering herself with is not like a mask to hide. It's like she's bringing out who she truly is with this makeup that she's wearing.
Yeah, and now she's hiding who she is by taking off the makeup.
What?
Yeah, I was just going to... If we skip to the end of the episode, we also get to see that she's there with some, again, normal clothes. She's found
She comes out and she's wearing the most
jeans.
ripped up jeans ever and a big white jumper, and you went, oh, she's wearing Shona's jeans, and then she says it's Shona's stuff. It's like, yeah, Shona really... I mean, if people were... If we lived in a society where people got beaten for wearing ripped clothes, Shona would have got shot in a box.
Yeah. Ash is there as well, and she says, oh, you don't look like you, and Nina says, good, Seb was killed because of who I was, so I've decided not to be her anymore. So that's the cliffhanger there. But we also before that had a couple more Todd and Paul scenes. They make up, there's stuff, they're boring. Toy was allowed home from work early by
Thank you,
gracious Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah. Grovel.
And I'll tug my forelock to you, mistress.
And she says she's changed her mind again, hasn't she? And she says, you're right, Imran, we did come into this fostering business to help vulnerable children like Kelly. I'm ashamed of myself for ever doubting her, or for thinking that we
shouldn't have anything to wash our hands of her.
So Imran's proud of her, and they have a nice smiley moment together, and they're going to stand
by her.
stand by Kelly, and maybe they do go and have a bit of...
I want to point out something about Toya that wasn't in the script, but I think it should have really been a contributing factor to her confusion over what she thought about whether they should stand by Kelly or not. And that is that actually, did I say this on the podcast, or did I just say this to you before we started recording about the difference between Corrie and Kelly?
I don't know.
Everybody's saying Kelly is like some poor orphaned...
Oh yeah, no, you did. You said that. We said that earlier on.
She's a privileged child. She's had a privileged upbringing, and just like Corrie, she had neglectful parents. So this isn't really a story about a working class girl who's had to fight for had a scrappy upbringing and has had to fight for everything that she's been given, and perhaps has had a skewed perspective on society based on her experiences. Her and Corrie, both very privileged, rich, and had, it's only very recently, within the last 2 years, that Kelly's life has fallen to pieces. And although she's still in her formative years, I think people are forgetting that at the very beginning of her appearance on the show, she was in kind of Corrie's position.
I mean, Laura and Rick had split up before then.
Well, she's got tumultuous family life.
Yeah,
but I'm not denying that she's had a hard time of it. But what I am saying is that people are putting into a box that she shouldn't belong in. Really, if you think about all the people that are involved in this, and you're talking about how does your upbringing affect the way that you interact with the world, and who is to blame? Is it society's fault? Is it your parents' fault? Is it inevitable that if you're a child, that you turn out in a certain way depending on how you were raised? Let's look at the people involved in this. You've got Kelly and Corrie, both of whom had all the money in the world but neglectful parents. And you've got Seb, who was raised by a drug addict mother who had to look after his siblings, and fend for himself. And he went off the rails a little bit, but he turned into a fairly decent person. You've got Nina, whose mother died when she was a young girl, and whose father has also died. And of those 4 people, 2 of them turned out to be decent, and 2 of them turned out to be violent. So I would say that Nina and Seb have had just as much of a tough life as the other 2.
Yeah. Well, and also they are older and maybe a bit more mature, and she is still going through... Who is? Nina and Seb are older.
They're older, and perhaps they might have had...
Yeah, and when Seb was Kelly's age, he was a bit more of a...
Naughty.
Yeah, he was a bit more of a...
The other thing I want to say...
I can't think of the word.
Scallywag?
That's the word, yes.
Toya's like thinking, how much do we owe this child? Can we help her? I think she's juggling with a lot of things. Some of them perhaps she feels guilty about, others she shouldn't. Like, she's perfectly correct that it's inappropriate for Kelly to live around the corner from Abby and Nina. That's inappropriate. just for the very geographical fact of their location, she shouldn't live there anymore. But
even though it hasn't stopped many other characters in the past living in the vicinity of people that they probably shouldn't do.
No, I know.
Because it's convenient for the show.
But as far as talking about, she's committed this violent crime, according to the police, she's been accused of it. Think about Toya's background, and I'm surprised this hasn't come up. Toya was brought up in a family that was brought in on purpose to be the Chav family, like the antisocial, kind of violent, thieving, horrible family that everybody hated for years. Toya, the first scene she was in, stole a drill out of the back of somebody's van. They spent all their time arguing with their neighbours and being horrible and playing their music and getting on everyone's nerves. But Toya, from that upbringing, almost immediately started to become more of a compassionate person. She wanted to rescue Teresa the turkey from being eaten at Christmas.
Well, thanks to Spider. Just if Spider hadn't come along.
And so she knows. Okay, well, I was like, there was probably a stage where she could have been involved in something just as violent.
Absolutely, she could have. Her life could have gone down that path.
And there's two ways of looking at this. There's the way of looking at it like you just did, where you said, well, maybe I can be that person in Kelly's life to stop her from making more mistakes. Maybe she just needs a spider, and I can be that. Or you can look at it from another perspective, as to say, well, I didn't end up like this, and really, if I look back on my life, there's no way, even if Spider hadn't come along, that I would have ended up in an alleyway kicking somebody to death.
But does Kelly know that she didn't kick somebody to death? That's the thing.
Does Kelly know she didn't?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Kelly knows whether she did it or not.
Yeah, but okay. No, carry on. I don't know what I mean.
Why? What the whole thing about this whole storyline has got really two major themes. You've got the self-expression and people immediately hating other people based on the way that they look, right? And that's this Sophie Lancaster story. That's the story that they worked with the foundation to talk about because of the real life murder that happened because of the way that she was dressed. And then you've got this other theme, which is a child, because she's only 15.
And she was 16.
Well, okay, 15, 16. Yeah. And she has committed, she was around a violent crime. Did she commit it? We don't really know. We're supposed to believe that she didn't. Who's protecting her? Who's looking out for her? And at that age, can you really condemn somebody for life and say, you've done this, and so society and how much influence can you say society had on her? And this is the thing, it just drives me crazy, because this is we'll never answer this question. We just don't know. You can have two people that are raised in exactly the same way, and one of them turns out to be a murderer and one of them turns out to be a pillar of society. You certainly can't say that that either one of them is a logical response.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And so many people fall through the cracks, but is it right to let people off? This is the thing I always come up with. I feel real compassion for people who have been raised in an awful situation, because I can't imagine some of the things, like child abuse, being raped as a child. How is that going to affect you for the rest of your life? Witnessing domestic abuse, seeing your dad hit your mum or vice versa. Being around drugs, being around violence. How is that going to affect you? Of course it's going to mess you up, but then you see people who were raised in the same situation and they don't do these things.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it just drives me crazy to work out, can you really blame somebody for being raised in a poor way and then reacting in a similar way and perpetuating the violence, when other people have been through the same thing and not done that?
So do you feel?
But at the same time, just to point out, remind everybody, Kelly and Corrie really are victims of neglectful parents.
Yeah. So
not violence, or not the kind of thing that Seb was brought up around.
Are you feeling any more sympathy towards Kelly this week? because they're certainly trying to go down that way, didn't they? I thought that Millie Gibson put on a brilliant performance in the police station. That scene where she was describing what happened, fantastic. She is a great actress, and we've heard about this a lot, and I think that this week we're really
great.
starting to see it. And she's great that she's able to be so, vile like she was last week, but on those times when we were supposed to be feeling sorry for her, I was kind of getting there, but I was in the back of my head just like, I don't want to feel sorry for her, because she was still an accessory to this.
Okay, so the other thing is that she elicits sympathy simply because she is a girl. So let's flip it around and imagine that it was Corrie sitting there crying. Would you feel as much sympathy for him as you did?
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't think you would.
I don't know. I would. Wouldn't it? It'd be a good twist if Corrie is actually telling the truth here. I really don't think it can, because he's been lying through his teeth ever since it happened and trying to.
Well, he's such an assured
dodge responsibility and get his alibis and everything.
It's obvious that he is a slick operator, and he has manufactured the whole thing to get him away from looking like the guilty party. So by soap law, he clearly is the one who did it.
It's just a shame that it's funny how quickly it's going, and it's a shame that it seems kind of obvious where it's going to go. I mean, whenever I say that, there often are more unexpected paths before they get there.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
It does just seem
We're always like, well, it's obvious.
It does just seem like she's going to maybe get sent down, but then does Corrie not want to have a wrongfully sent down story already?
Can I just point out that she wouldn't be wrongfully sent down because she stood there and watched it happen? Like, okay, listen, right.
There's a difference.
Let me just ask you a question. Say that Corrie says, yeah, it was me. I kicked him to death and she didn't do anything. Does she deserve to be punished or not? Because I feel as though everyone is saying no. I feel like I'm surrounded. I feel like
I know what you mean.
I feel I'm going crazy here, because just because she didn't kick him to death doesn't mean she gets off with the whole thing.
But she's saying she was trying to stop him. I mean, this is another reason why I find it difficult to believe that the police would automatically agree with or believe Corey's story, because he was also saying, I was trying to pull Kelly off of her, of Seb, sorry, and I don't believe that he would. He's a big guy, isn't he? I don't think that he would. Yeah, I don't think that he would have that much of a difficulty pulling Kelly off of Seb. He could have just grabbed her around the waist and.
Sorry, what are you saying? What are you saying?
I'm saying I think that I'm surprised that the police would believe that Corrie tried to stop Kelly but couldn't.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't make any logical sense. The police don't. Yeah, the whole thing is kind of silly.
So it seems to be going down a bit of a cliche of there's a wrongfully imprisoned person, but I suppose the difference with what we usually get in Coronation Street is when there is somebody who is 100% innocent, whiter than white, and we know that they're wrongfully.
Yeah, but people are trying to put her into that box.
Yeah, they are a little bit, and what absolutely should not happen at the end of this is she gets let off, goes, haha, Corrie, we got you in the end, and then everything's hunky dory for her.
Yeah, because this is kind of reminding me a little bit of what happened, and it's not the same thing at all, obviously, but with Tyrone and Alina, like. They did something wrong, but they're sad about it. So they get let off of it? No. Just because you're sad about the fact that you've done something wrong doesn't automatically absolve you of any punishment.
Yeah.
She's sitting there crying and she feels bad. She's ruined her life. Yeah, sorry, but you did. Because you watched, even if you didn't kick him at all, and you didn't run for help.
No.
You instigated the violence and you kind of egged him on.
And Seb called for the ambulance himself, didn't he, with Nina's phone?
So where did they go then? She ran off. She didn't stop to help him.
No,
he was still alive and speaking.
True.
She didn't go, God, Seb, are you okay? Let me help you. I'll phone the ambulance. Quick, come here. Who knows how long he was waiting because he didn't know where he was. She might have been able to give them better information to locate him. She could have put a blanket under his head. She might have been able to stop the bleeding. She might have been able to give him water. At the very least, she could have given him comfort. But no, she didn't, because she was more involved than she's letting on. And even if she wasn't, even if her story is completely true, I still cannot really see how this makes her innocent at all.
They can't take her down the Becky Granger.
She's irredeemable in my eyes unless she does something heroic to bring Corrie down. But even then, I don't buy it. She's only doing it because she needs to get out of what she's already done. And I don't agree with this law that says that, you know, if two of you were involved in a crime, say, I think the famous example is if you're involved in a bank robbery and somebody is killed.
If you're the getaway driver.
You're the same. It's as if you pulled the trigger because you knew when you got involved in it that the possibility was that somebody could die. I don't necessarily agree with that at all. I don't think that she's just as culpable as Corrie if she didn't even touch him. But, you know, she was there and she egged him on.
She started the violence with a slap as well. And I know
It's
that
like
she was
saying-
drunk and she was getting
Yeah.
caught up in the moment, and he was saying, go on, hit her and everything. But
I'm definitely of the... Like, my mum always complained to my dad about this, where he was like, it doesn't matter what you intended to do. At the end of the day, the result of what you did is bad, so you're going to get punished. So sometimes I'd be punished for things that were an accident or I didn't intend for them to happen. But I completely agree with that like line of logic, because just because you didn't mean for it to happen doesn't undo the results at the end.
yeah, and like I said on the podcast last week that I wouldn't be surprised if we were both to sympathise for Kelly at some point, because she still does have a dead dad that needs to be found out about.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's going to fit into
But
this as well.
I just think it would be a really brave move of Coronation Street to make her just as culpable as Corrie. But to say...
in real life as well, you know,
What do you mean?
if somebody gets off when they were clearly involved, that's sending a bad message to people. Like, it's all right to be in a gang that hurts people as long as you're not the one that does it.
Yeah, definitely. But I forgot what I was going to say.
What did you think of so Toya and Imran's reaction? Were you more on, because you weren't happy with Toya deciding at the end of the week that she is going to stick with Kelly, right?
I don't know, I'm distracted by what I was going to say.
I thought there was a chance that this story could make us not like the pair of them. I think by the end of it they'd redeem themselves a little bit, but I did find Imran just ever so slightly insufferably moralistic about it, saying no, I made the vow. I suppose it's very honourable and everything, but I wouldn't have blamed them at all if they'd said we're in over our heads here.
So there's one thing that people sometimes miss about the justice system and about defence lawyers and things, like, oh, how could you defend this person when you know they did it? Or the point of the justice system is that everybody gets tried and gets a fair shot, and it doesn't feel right that Kelly should not get a fair shot at defending herself or having protection just because she... See, this is the thing. The story is kind of trying to make us think that because she was vulnerable and she didn't have this kind of support system in place, it led to her, you know, falling into this trap of like violence and stuff. So then to remove the support that she already has immediately as a punishment before she's even been tried feels really unfair and completely counterproductive to like how a society should be. And I guess I kind of understand Imran from that perspective, but I equally do understand Toya's point of view. And the other point is that Laura's turned up now, and Laura is the mother, and didn't the
judge,
social workers say that she's got to move anyway? So I don't get what they're arguing about.
Yeah, that's true. She does have to move, but at least she's got, you know, they've got her back, I suppose. And Imran has sort of vowed that he's going to continue to represent her, and Toya will support him. She
needs somebody to support her because the trial needs to be fair.
Do you think that...
And I really firmly believe in this, and it really winds me up when people get mad at defence lawyers for doing their jobs. They are just an important part of seeking justice, because if the defence is not robust and comprehensive, the trial was not fair, and therefore the verdict is invalidated.
Yeah.
And if the person is as guilty as everybody says that they are, then having a robust and comprehensive defence should be no barrier to them being found guilty. But of course we know that's not true, because we know that people can pay their way out of being found guilty.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me so much of the O.J. Simpson trial, because he basically paid his way out of that. And I, again, this is a kind of another lesser theme of this, which is, can you buy justice? And that's what Corrie's doing.
Stefan certainly, I think hopes to be able to do. But do you think that? I mean, Corrie's obviously going to get, caught at the end of this, isn't he? No doubt in my mind about that. Do you think that he's going to get a soap death, or is he going to get imprisoned?
Hold that thought, because
Okay.
It's gone again.
Oh, just ideas.
Okay, I've remembered it. So I think this is really Coronation Street. This is what it says. Should be brave to have a perpetrator of a crime have a sympathetic element to them, and they're shying away from it. I think they're scared, because there's a lot to sympathise with Kelly's predicament.
Yeah.
Quite apart from the fact that people naturally want to help a girl who's crying, who's a pretty girl and skinny, and I know people probably think I'm being shallow, but tell me I'm lying. I'm not. This is a fact. Attractive young girls elicit more sympathy than most other groups, especially a white girl. There's that. There's the fact that she's crying and she's sad about it. There's the fact that her dad's dead and she doesn't know. There's the fact that she was abandoned by her mum. There's the fact that she was almost abandoned by her foster parents. She's alone in the world in a sense, but she still committed this crime. Or did she? I'm saying that she did. She definitely did something wrong here. Is Coronation Street brave enough to have somebody that is so sympathetic like that, who seems redeemable, but still to say, no, she deserves as much punishment as anybody else? I don't think they're brave enough.
I don't know.
Honestly.
I think they should, but
they really should, because it's really frustrating to watch this kind of all start to stack up in her favour. Honestly,
I mean,
she's a nasty piece of work.
Yeah, she can.
And obviously, in English law, you're not allowed to bring in prior offences. Not that anything she's done is criminal, but let's look at the pattern of behaviour here. She distributed child pornography. I haven't forgotten that.
I wonder whether it's going to be one of these things where she gets that she gets kept in custody for so long, and then the trial comes on and she gets some sort of sentence, but because she's already been in custody for so long, she'll be let out straight away.
And people are going to go, yeah, brilliant, we love Kelly because she's sad. And I cannot get behind this idea that as long as you're sad enough about doing something wrong, everybody's supposed to forgive you, because it's not how it works.
So I was saying earlier, do you think that we're going to...
I just feel so excited that I remembered.
Is Corrie going to be killed? Or is he going to be sent down? Because
I think he's too young to get killed off.
Do you reckon? I mean, usually the big bads at Coronation Street get killed, don't they? Especially if they're murderers themselves. I know we've had Rob Donovan, he's banged up for murder, but usually it's a death. It's eye for an eye, isn't it? I think
if he was 5 years older, no, I wouldn't really hesitate to say I think he should die. But because he's so young, because, I just don't think that they would. It wouldn't be honestly, do you want to watch a teenage boy die? And how would he die?
I don't know. Doesn't matter. Who'd have thought that Jeff would have fallen off a roof?
Get pecked to death by chickens.
I found that all the stuff with Asher and Corrie very, very interesting this week, and it's making me wonder, like, now that Corrie has given his story about, no, I was trying to get Kelly off of him and everything, is Asher going to start to believe him more?
It's, again... Nina talked about ego, and I think in a way this is her Asher protecting her ego. She might want to take him back to say, I'm not that much of a bad judge of character. All the time we spent together, was that fake? No, it can't have been. We had a real connection, and Asher would never be attracted to somebody who's violent like that.
Yeah.
It would be very in keeping with human nature for her to not believe that he had anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But equally, alarm bells have been ringing in her ears this whole time.
She also has had this falling out with Nina in today's episode that might make her seek comfort in...
No, because she was still on Nina's side at the end of the episode, because she was saying...
Oh, yeah, no, you're right, she was defending her against that.
How long is Nina's costume change going to last here? Because, look, this is not permanent. I think if you're watching this and you feel bad and you think... it's sad that Coronation Street has taken this away from her, and it's not fair and everything. I genuinely think that this is not how Nina's going to end up.
Is it permanent.
This is part of her story arc to kind of reclaim herself. At the end of this, she'll be back in black lipstick, because the whole story is based on this real life murder of Sophie Lancaster, and the moral of the story cannot be, well, Sophie, just if she were to survive, would be wearing a button down shirt now. No, that's not right. The whole point of this story is that you should be proud of yourself and who you are.
Yeah, but I thought that Mollie's portrayal of somebody having to make these decisions and doubting themselves and is who the person I am caused this. I thought that was fantastic. Mollie, she didn't have a whole lot to do on Monday and Wednesday's episodes, but just knocked it out of the park again tonight. I thought I'm loving having it refocused back on her again now, and the relationship with her and Roy is just brilliant.
It's also really interesting to look back on all the scenes that we've ever had, especially with female characters, and like interacting with mirrors and making some change to themselves or looking at their appearance and like acknowledging that perhaps what they see is not what other people see. Like when she looks in the mirror and she sees her black lipstick, she's seeing herself as she really is. And I think that she was shocked, and she's been teased about it before, but this was like the first time that she probably has stopped to think, what do people actually see when they see me?
Yeah.
They see something that they hate, and she didn't understand how much hatred there was before this happened to her.
And Abby's it's just shown just how bad that hate can be at the moment, because I think it's very natural that Abby is
I spoke about this last week.
Way. Yeah, I'm enjoying that side of it, because some people online are saying, Abby, you need to back off, but I think we need to let Abby breathe, and it's good for the drama and everything.
Of course, it's totally natural.
I'm sure they will
Abby's
bond
a
again.
Cow anyway.
She is. They'll the idea that some people have said about Nina becoming some sort of surrogate daughter for Abby does seem quite maybe nice and sweet resolution to it all. And I still think as well that the possibility of Asha and Nina getting together again at the end of this is a happy ending. It's possible. I don't know whether I particularly want it to happen, but it's possible. Anyway, I think we've.
Is there anything else to say?
I don't think
about
so.
this?
I was surprised that we didn't see anything from Eileen this week, considering that she was one of the people that we saw being told in those scenes at the end of last week's episode. I guess just
maybe there'll be some funeral scenes.
Yeah, we said that there's going to be something with the funeral and George getting involved and Todd and everything. But no, I think that's it.
Yeah. So Toya and Imran, are they going to be the street pariahs, as Toya I think quite rightly predicted? Yes, people are going to look down on them for supporting her. But if Kelly's been led down this path due to a lack of support, like I said earlier, to take that away, even the meagre amount that she had already, seems to be counterproductive and like a gross injustice. Personally, I'm not on her side at all. Luckily, I don't have to make the decision about whether to support her or not.
If Toya and Imran are street pariahs, then it's probably fine, really, because they can just like lock themselves in their flat again for another 2 months, 3 months, and it blows over. And they've shown that they're perfectly good at that, just living a quiet life, not interacting with anybody else or having anything to say or do. So it'll be fine.
We did a poll on our Twitter, and I asked people, who do you think was more responsible for Seb's death? And the options were more down to Corrie, more down to Kelly, or both equally responsible. And we had 589 votes. And
thank you to everybody who retweeted that.
Thank you to everybody who retweeted that.
And including Julia Golding, she retweeted that.
She
did this morning, yes.
Well, she wants to know. It's down to the people.
Tell her.
You got to. It's a democratic process. You have to vote if you want your voice to be heard. 62% blamed Corrie.
Well, they're saying it was more down to him.
2% blamed Kelly more. And 36% said they were both equally responsible.
There's no way that it can be more down to Kelly, honestly, can it? He's definitely the instigator. He's the one that riled her up. He's the one that, took her out, got her drunk and everything. But
I just want to read out some of the comments because I think they're really interesting. So Rebecca says she voted Corrie, even though Kelly egged him on. Corrie did the kicking. Kelly has some responsibility, but not as much as Corrie. Lindsay said Corrie was definitely the ringleader. Kelly went along with it, wanting to show off to Corrie. think she fancied him. Stupid girl. Never liked either of them, to be honest. Script to scene, 70% Corrie, 30% Kelly. Barry, Corrie 100%. The Kelly was involved through peer pressure. Without Corrie, Kelly would never have been involved, which I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
But you can't have people running around the streets who can be influenced into kicking someone to death. I know this gets used quite a lot. Oh, they were just lured into it by somebody else. I don't want people that impressionable being allowed to run around having a go.
Yeah.
We also got Gwyneth. He says there was a few others who were friends of Corrie who were probably involved as well. So today's episode cleared that up by saying that they admitted that they attacked Nina. Can I also just add in, if I was the prosecutor here, I'd be adding assault on Kelly's charges because she slapped Nina around the face.
Yeah.
She's only being charged with assault. Is it she being charged with assaulting Nina? She should.
No,
be.
I don't
She's
think
not.
she is
well,
anymore
she should be.
because Eli and Jason have confessed.
And she should also be charged for that hideous backpack that she's got. Christina says she thinks the scriptwriters are responsible.
On the fence there.
And I also have, and I didn't encourage this, royalist supporter who says both of them did it, so they're both equally responsible, neither back down. And that's at Pro Royal Family.
Thank you, everybody. Interesting stuff.
Clearly they weren't the one that gave us the review the other week.
Well, from Corrie to glory, from
And
bail
also-
hearings to Baileys,
Okay.
I've got my segue. Sorry, I thought that was it. I
Continue.
thought you'd finished. We got the return to glory story, which we can kind of rush through fairly quickly. Basically, we got Glory coming home from the hospital. I've kind of forgotten about her. I don't know when
actually-
to expect her to come back, but
How long has she been back? Has she already been back?
no, this was it. This was her. Because she was
It's
she was
not very
put away in
triumphant
the
then, is
in the
it? We're supposed to be worried about this child.
Yeah, she's fine, and Ed's going a bit over the top, getting
Oh,
getting ready for.
I totally
for the
spaced out
baby.
about this.
And
That makes sense.
he's got bags of nappies and bottles and I don't know. what
You
babies
haven't
need.
mentioned the most important thing that he's done.
What?
Fix the stairs.
Oh yeah, he has fixed the stairs at last, hasn't he? Because he shut the yard in respect to Seb, so he's got nothing else to do, so he can finally get those stairs done at last.
Is it really shutting out of respect when you go home and do work that you're going to do there anyway?
I'd kind of forgotten about their relationship as well. The fact that he was his little apprentice, wasn't he?
Oh, there was quite a ironic. Is it ironic? I'm never sure. It was funny anyway. When Abby was talking about memories of when Seb was a little boy, and she said, he was always running around with his
Bob the Builder,
trying to fix all the things that were broken, and it was supposed to be metaphorical, but sadly, it conjured up the fact in our minds that Seb, still at the age of whatever he was when he died, couldn't fix anything worth a damn because he couldn't fix
Daniel's
cupboard. So he spent his whole life trying to fix broken
Can he
things.
fix it?
No, he can't.
We've got we have a few scenes of Ronnie with Ed in Wednesday's episode as well, and it's just we're reminded of the fact that Ed still hasn't forgiven Ronnie for the whole Aggie. I used to date her before we met, and I thought that maybe Michael was my boy and everything, and Ed's saying, look, you're not rebuilding any bridges around here soon. Friday,
I'm the one that does the building.
Friday,
I totally wasn't psychologically prepared for the fact that the Baileys would have a staircase this week.
I think it was.
I
think the joke ran long enough.
Yeah, I
Looks
agree.
looking nicer now.
And they also have a downstairs toilet.
Oh yeah, they do, don't they? Which is leading into Ken's lounge.
Well,
He's got the Rover's toilet leading into one side of his
Yeah.
lounge. Ed's Bailey's toilet leading into the other side of the lounge.
People
No
were
wonder he's so
saying,
grumpy.
"Oh, it's silly because that door leads directly into Ken's house," and I was thinking, makes sense to me. Open the door. Hello, Ken. Sorry, just going for a wee. Just go up the stairs and do your business. Come back down. Close the door again. You don't have to worry about the plumbing.
True. Friday's episode, Ed's going off to see Aggie because he realises he's getting under Michael and Grace's feet a little bit, and he says, "Oh, can you take the camper van for a spin while I'm away?"
Because it was quite funny because Michael was basically telling Ed that he was being overbearing, but they still wanted to live in Ed's house. It's like, sorry, but you're going to have to accept the fact that this new granddad is going to be a bit into the baby if you live under the same roof. And you're kind of, I don't know if you're paying rent.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
So Ronnie's there just to make fun of Ed's camper van in a friendly way, but maybe he was a bit misjudged considering what Ed had said the previous day. Jenny recommends that Ronnie give Ed some space, and he says, look, maybe I should just move on, find somewhere new to live. And Jenny's like, oh, no, don't want you to leave. She says that he should do some kind of grand gesture to show what a lovely guy he is, or he says that, but I can't remember. He's got an idea, but he needs her help, so he sets the plan in action, inviting Michael and Grace round to the Rovers for a free drink later. And while Jenny has got them distracted, he slips the camper van keys out of Michael's pocket. And decides that he's going to pimp Ed's ride as a surprise for him to show what a nice guy he is. And
I don't think this is going to go down
It feels like
well.
he's going to, it's not going to go down well. He's either going to make it look rubbish or he's going to rob Ed of the chance to do it up himself. I mean, maybe that could have been a nice family activity to do together. I don't know, but that's basically everything that happened there, wasn't it? I'm not enjoying what Jenny's doing with Ronnie. I'm just like, it feels like we're walking towards certain doom with Jenny and Johnny, just as probably Johnny's going to be released from prison. It's so annoying. It's like when Tyrone slept with Gemma just while she was away, or just before Fizz was about to come back. It's like you couldn't have, resisted your urges for just a little while longer. My only glimmer of hope in there is surely they wouldn't have another affair storyline within months of the Tyrone and Alina one. Oh, I just don't want it to happen. I really, really don't want it to happen, but it feels like something is going to go on there. I'd be very disappointed with Jenny if she gives in to those urges, because Johnny's lovely and you've only been married for a few years. Don't do it.
It's her passion.
Yeah. If they get the old camper van a rocking after he's done it up,
Oh no!
I'm not going to be happy with that. Not going to be happy at all.
That sounds like a very likely thing to happen.
I know. And then we also just had that stuff with Sam and Daniel today, which is kind of funny. Sam's decided that in order to get into Oak Hill, he needs to have Daniel coaching him. I think that Sam could probably walk that Oak Hill entrance exam with his eyes closed, to be honest.
If he's anything like the way he was with Daniel this week, he'll walk into Oak Hill and say,
"Are you good enough for me?
Here's a series of questions that you need to answer correctly for me to deign to grace you with my presence."
Yeah, but it was kind of funny.
Explain what happened.
Well, Sam just says, "Oh, can you be my tutor so that I can get into Oak Hill?" So Daniel goes round there, gets given a test of verbal and non-verbal reasoning, which is the sort of stuff you have to do.
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's just like, here's a there's word tests, which is verbal reasoning.
Oh.
And then non-verbal reasoning is like, what's the next shape in this sequence? Square, triangle, square, square, triangle. What comes next? That sort of thing.
I thought it was something to do with like, how do you reason without words?
No, it's not.
Like, how can you work out without talking?
It's logic puzzles. It's the sort of stuff you have to do for your IQ test or whatever.
It's an IQ test.
Yeah. It's what I had to do to, when I had my grammar school entrance exam.
Oh, well. Some people don't even get a chance to have those.
When I did my 12 plus. I don't think it's necessary at all for Daniel to be a tutor. But it was a nice reminder that Daniel was doing his PGCE. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really believe that he would have time to tutor Sam, or indeed just, lounge around in the cafe having his breakfast in the morning when he's probably got a school that he should be teaching in, but never mind.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Doesn't matter.
I wonder whether this is going to spin off into its own story, whether it's just a way of getting Daniel involved in Sharon's nefarious plan. Because the last thing we heard of that still was Harvey telling Sharon that she needs to get to Leanne through Sam come hell or high water.
Why add
Sharon
another character in?
Well, I don't know. But I guess we will find out. I mean, I can't think of any particular link that Daniel's got to that lot, but I don't know. I like Daniel, and it could be fun. Next is it.
Yeah,
that's it. We're done. So now that we've had a chance to discuss it, Gemma, I kind of gave my brief impressions of the week at the beginning of the episode. What did
you say?
I said I think it was a pretty solid week, but I preferred last week more. I could have done without the Bailey stuff and even the Sam and Daniel bit, really. Although at some point, I suppose you have to go back to the usual soap formula of having 3, 4, 5 stories in a week. But I did really, really appreciate all of the time that was given to this story. I thought all of the main players did a fantastic job again. There were bits of it that I was like, which, like, how cliche it went down the route of the wrongful, in inverted comma, arrest, because I do think that Kelly deserves some kind of punishment. I felt uncomfortable with the tension that was going on between Toya and Imran, and and the fact that it was difficult because I understand that Imran would want to support Kelly, but I didn't think that she necessarily deserves the support.
He's quite naive, really, for a lawyer.
I really, really loved Abby. As horrible as she was being to some of the other characters, I thought that it was very in character and understandable. Nina and Roy, fantastic
Abby.
as all. Nina and
What
Nina
did you
and
say
Roy.
about Abby? Did you say Abby?
Yeah, the way she was being horrible to Nina and everyone, and wanting justice and revenge. I thought that was in
it was
character.
very true to grief, because when you're grieving, you feel completely alone.
Yeah.
And she kind of wanted, like, people were trying to reach her and tell her how they felt, and she didn't want to hear it. So she kind of manifested solitude by just being horrible to people to try to alienate herself, so she could have this kind of, this peace that she kind of sought, like where she was just alone with her grief, because she doesn't have really anyone to share it with.
Yeah.
Because she rejected Nina. Nina's the only person who really feels the same way about what happened as she did, because she doesn't have the father of Seb to talk to. She doesn't. Kevin wasn't close enough to Seb to really have an emotional response to his death. So
I think Abby's probably going to be my character of the week this week, and I could see why people might vote for someone like Imran for doing the right thing and standing by Kelly. I could definitely see why people might even vote Kelly, because she was a real linchpin character of the week. I could see people voting Nina, although I don't think Nina did as much this week, but I think
Abby definitely deserves it this week.
I think she does. I mean, she could well deserved it last week. We didn't give it to her last week, and she's
okay,
just
which
been
is Seb, because Seb is dead.
yeah, absolutely fantastic in this story, and I just love Sally Carman, and she also when we tweet about Sally Carman, we've had some big tweets this week, haven't we?
Oh, it's been a massive
Just saying how
week
great.
for us, so that's the main thing.
So she's my character of the week, and I'm going to give this a solid 4 out of 5. And I don't know whether that's going to be kind of lowballing
What's
it compared
your score
to...
out of?
Oh, well, obviously, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 sore winkles. Which is what Michael had when he was a baby.
I'm going to give it 4 drop melons.
Nice, yeah.
God, I tell you what, Gemma's mask is so frightening.
Oh, good. Yeah, Gemma is frightening. That's it then, isn't it? I'm feeling ever so slightly underwhelmed by this week, but I think it's just natural coming down from the high of the previous week that it can never... It can't stay at that level of tension and everything forever, sadly. No. And often the following weeks after a big event's happened, it's always cools down a little bit. There were still lots of great twists and everything. I thought that Corrie was fantastic to watch. I really love him on screen. I think that...
So evil.
I think that Asher... Yeah, Max is doing a really awesome job.
Of all the things that...
He plays him so well, this loathsome character.
I mean, the one thing
Cowardly.
I think everybody agrees on is that Corrie definitely did kill Seb, and he deserves to be punished.
Yeah.
I don't think there's very many people who are saying that he didn't have anything to do with it. It seems quite obvious.
But as I say, that would be an amazing twist if he didn't, and he's telling the truth all along.
But this is what I'm saying about kind of convenient villains. He is the most convenient villain for this to be.
Well, I think that Eli would be more of a convenient if it turned out that Eli had done it.
No, because Corey's been an antagonist the entire time he's been on the show, and he's been quite villainous as well, and he's been manipulative, and we've never really liked him.
No.
So, and nobody has sympathy. Who has sympathy for Corrie?
His dad.
It's way more nuanced to have a villain like Kelly. It's braver to have a villain where if Kelly was to be sent to prison because it was proven that she actually was responsible, people would be up in arms about it just because she's pretty and she cried. Yeah.
Really interested to see where this goes. I don't know. I haven't seen any spoilers about where this is developing in the slightest.
And I don't know how fast this is going to take place.
A lot of the I think I read Monday's synopsis after the episode, and a lot of it was very, very vague because it was obviously hiding the fact that Seb was dead, because that was left as a surprise at the end of last week. So yeah, I'm very much loving this.
Great story.
Don't rush it, Coronation Street. Take your time. Please don't let it go too much down the obvious route, and let somebody remember about that boot mark on Nina's leg sooner rather than later.
It is a great story, but I don't buy how wholesale the police believe Corrie over Kelly. Because even just the physicality of it, you've got a boy, like a big strapping lad, and a petite girl, and a boy that's been kicked to death, and who is more likely to have done it?
I think that
I don't think it's impossible for a girl to be able to kick a boy to death, but I certainly think, if you're using Occam's razor,
I just think that it seems like the boot marks on Nina would.
They'd be
really, really looking into that.
Hang on a minute. No, they weren't the ones that kicked Nina anyway. It doesn't matter what the boot mark was.
Oh yeah, of course.
There you go. You don't need to worry about it after all.
Oh well, there goes that theory then of what's going to happen. Because people have probably been shouting that at me all episode.
Eli and Jason.
I've offered no useful contributions to this episode whatsoever.
Oh yeah, you should quit.
Oh well, right. I think that with that we better move on and do the next bit of the podcast then, haven't we? All right, let's go then.